Preetha, it's a pleasure to welcome you. You are focused on healthcare startups. You also invest with healthcare startups. And there's a lot of buzz about GenAI and how it's going to impact many different verticals. But let's focus on healthcare. How do you think it's going to really make an impact and influence two ways, right? One is entrepreneurially to do great products and improve the products. And then how do you think it's going to influence the lifestyle of people?
That's a great question. Thank you very much. I think we have to look at Gen AI in the context, the larger context of AI. And we really should step back a little and ask ourselves, what's going to happen to healthcare? What does the future of healthcare look like? So let me start there, because I think Gen AI and AI play really well in that context. So it is our perspective in the firm I work in, which is Pier Ventures, that the future of healthcare is going to be connected, patient-centric, wellness-focused, which, as you know, is quite a departure from today. It's also going to be cloud-enabled and AI-enabled. And I think all of these different aspects of it are something that we as consumers really are hoping to see. Now, if you think about the broad technological changes that have been really sweeping across other industries, they've been slow to come to healthcare. It's because it's a highly regulated industry, and there's a lot of risk aversion, as you would expect. And you'd expect, you don't want your healthcare system to be adopting the latest fad and so on and so forth. So it's rightly so. But because of that, you're going to find that healthcare systems, healthcare providers, they're all slow to adopt the latest changes. And what's been happening with AI and Gen AI in several other sectors is going to be slow to come. But the good news, though, is that a lot of it has already happened because of years of innovation in AI, and now Gen AI has been seen and evaluated, tested, and integrated into other industries. Healthcare is now starting to adopt it. So, for example, if you look and you asked me, how do you think is it? First, the big question is, will it have an impact? And the answer is yes. I think it absolutely will shake the core of what we believe and what our healthcare is today, in little ways and big ways. We're going to see little ways come through even now. I believe doctors in Stanford are using an AI system that takes their notes from just conversation as the doctor talks through, transcribes them, and God knows what else it does. But that capacity is there, where you can turn conversational AI, someone talking, into deep down, knowledge of it and tracking and all of that good stuff. So that's a very simple example, something that exists. Let's look a little deeper. There's a problem, for example, in clinical trials, and we've invested in a clinical trials AI company, for example. There's a problem in that when big pharma need to test a drug, well, they need to run these clinical trials, but where should they run them? They need a diversity of populations. Where can they find exactly the right set of population with the right demographics, with perhaps a disease condition? Well, AI is really stepping into that. And we're talking about NLP methods, machine learning methods, where NLP and machine learning is really good at taking large amounts of information that's in text, in journal articles, in medical reports, in what it's published. And these are called unstructured data. And in a sense, in our language, understanding the key points that a researcher wants to understand. And if you think about this, in goes 800 publications, maybe 800,000 publications, and out comes a few insights like, you should conduct your clinical trials here. So if you ask the question, I need to conduct clinical trials for prostate cancer, I'm looking for 50-year-old men, some 50% of them have to be white, 50% of them have to be non-white. Where can I do that? And the machine learning model should be able to tell you that you should look here and here and here. And that is within, I would say, a year of having early results on something like that. So will and so that's just the AI. Now you're asking me Gen AI, which is the next step in that. And so the difference between Gen AI and AI is that with Gen AI, you're actually creating a content. So this first example where you look at this data and then you say, okay, where can I do this? You're looking at data that exists and you're coming up with an answer. But if you were to ask it, what could a structure of a compound be that would be a good drug to cure pancreatic cancer? I'm, of course, oversimplifying it. Now the system has to actually generate a compound that may or may not exist within the rules of chemistry and all that stuff. Well, that's Gen AI. Of course, what we see nowadays is, draw me a picture of a cat which has blue eyes, and then you come up with a picture. So this capacity of Gen AI to create, predict compounds with properties and structures, that's going to be a killer. I mean, if you think about it, billions of dollars are spent just in the first part of drug development, doing the drug discovery. So anyway, so I think I'm very bullish on this. I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. It'll, of course, have to go through the regulatory process. But that's good for us as patients, as people. So I hope that answers your question, Mateen. No.
It does. I want to switch gears and focus on startups, since you also invest in healthcare startups. There's a lot more agility in startups, right? But then for the big pharma companies, obviously there is a lot of processes, regulations, and all that. Where do you think you can? I feel strongly there is more impact when you look at the startups in healthcare space, because a lot of innovation can come from there much quicker. And then that could be adopted by bigger companies, because for them to do the turnaround is going to be much more challenging. So maybe there is a good balance right there. And I was trying to see, how we can focus on startups and help them to innovate faster and then pass it on up the value chain. Something of that kind of a model.
Yeah, you raise a very good point. I think one question is, what is Big Pharma doing? Is there any innovation at all? Well, the good news is Big Pharma is taking this really seriously and actually developing in-house capabilities to do exactly the kinds of things we talked about. But Big Pharma is Big Pharma. And a lot of this innovation, this agility you talk about, is coming from startups. What we are seeing is partnerships evolve between large pharma companies and startups that at one point were small. So there's two examples we can throw out, big names in the business. Sanofi has had a fairly long-standing in startup time relationship with Exscientia, and they're doing drug discovery, and there's, I think, something that's going to be on the market very soon if it's not there already. And just recently, Causali, which is a London-based startup, large startup again, has been talking about its partnerships and its ability to help other companies, larger companies, do that. So as VCs, we invest, there's different aspects of the AI chain as the value chain one could invest in. So a lot of VC investment is going in the very last part of it, the application part of it. That is, how do you take what's been developed already and create maybe a specific application, just read clinical reports, or just predict a new drug for prostate cancer. So those kinds of startups that are innovating in the application layer are receiving a lot of funding, and they are the ones to watch.
On that note, Preetha, thank you. Thank you for sharing those fabulous thoughts, and wishing you all the best in investment. I know you're going to empower a lot more entrepreneurs in that space. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for this. Thank you.